Powerful people can abuse their position, and the community expects them to be held accountable. That's where the KPBS investigations team comes in. If you have a tip for us, send an email to investigations@kpbs.org or message on the Signal app at 619-594-8177.
Welcome in, San Diego. It's Jade Hindman. On today's show, many people are dealing with anxiety and tension as immigration enforcement continues. We'll talk about positive ways to handle those emotions. This is KPBS Midday Edition, connecting our communities through conversation. There's a lot of anxiety and fear in the political landscape right now amid the Trump administration's continuing immigration crackdown and an avalanche of changing policies. All of this uncertainty and the heavy headlines can have a real impact on one's mental health. So when the news gets overwhelming, when reality gets overwhelming, how do you navigate it? Well, I'm here with Lizeth Ma. She's a licensed marriage and family therapist based in San Diego's South Bay. Lizeth, welcome back to the show.
Thank you for having me again.
So glad to have you on here. I think this is a really important conversation given the times we're in. So first of all, how are you doing?
I'm doing okay. I'm treading waters.
Yeah.
One day at a time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how are you taking care of yourself and your mental health during this time?
Well, I try to model what I preach. So I try to, limit my exposure on my daily basis. I do work out 5 days a week. I drop off my daughter, go to the gym, and then around 11 o'clock, I'll see my first client. So the beginning of the day is my time to kind of reset, be fresh, so that way where I'm sitting on that couch, it's all my attention directed to that specific client.
First order of business is to take care of yourself.
100%. We use the airplane mentality, right? Airbag on yourself first.
Oh, yeah.
Then the second
Mask on you first,
Yep.
then, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I know you've had a lot of conversations with your clients who are feeling a lot of anxiety around Trump's immigration crackdown. You work like primarily in the South Bay,
Correct.
Where many community members are directly impacted by all of this. And we touched base with you last year, but what have your clients been seeing and feeling since then?
Well, I feel like after our last interview, I think things after a few months, it kind of stabilized a little bit. But to be honest, I do think that there's like a little pattern. Every few months, things get a little crazy and a little wild with the news and what's happening. And then, it kind of slows down a bit. And then here we go again. So we're like in this up and down roller coaster, unfortunately. And there is population that's, affected directly and a little bit more than other individuals. So it's depending on the client. Unfortunately now, I want to say in the last few weeks, I feel like it's affecting people that you wouldn't typically assume that they're getting affected. I see a variation of clients. I see kids, couples, adolescents, adults, and we have a heavy population of military members that we see. And I was in session last week with one of my retired Navy guys, and I've been seeing him for a hot minute, and he said, I'm embarrassed to tell you what's going on. And then, I normalized it. We had our little conversation. And he ended up telling me, he said, I just been scared and nervous. And I was really not piecing it together because he was kind of vague at first. And I continued to ask questions and probe for more details so he can clarify what he was trying to share. And he said, I've just been afraid of leaving the house and something happening to me and not coming back home. And, sometimes you have to assess on mental health. So you assess for paranoia, delusional thinking, stuff like that. And, I'm asking specification questions so I can understand exactly what's happening. And this client has depression, right? Nothing that you would think, aligned with paranoia or delusional thinking. So I'm asking questions, maybe we missed something. And I asked him specifically, what are we afraid of? And he said, that I'm going to be picked up by ICE. And I said, what do you mean? And my ignorance in the moment, I know he's third generation American, right? So I'm thinking, why? And, there's different types of Mexicans. We have fair skins. You have caramel tones like myself. So we come in all shapes and colors, right? And I'm just asking questions, and I'm asking him why. And unfortunately, he said something that hit home. And he said, and I said, but you're a citizen. You're American. And he said, but it's not like it matters.
Right.
And I paused.
Yeah.
And I had to wrap my head around that.
Right.
And I said, you're right.
It's absolutely right.
Yeah, it still gives me the chills.
I know. And I've heard of cases where military
Absolutely.
members have been stopped and hemmed up by ICE,
Yes.
across the country.
100%.
Not only do they have to contend with that, I'm sure they're weighing various things in their mind
Exactly.
right now.
Yes.
Yeah. I mean, well, you've said before that, you've had to be more creative these days in helping your clients navigate this moment. What does that look like?
So, we're trained to help with interventions, clinical interventions, with certain mental health diagnoses, right? So, as mild as, mild could be with anxiety and depression, and as severe as, bipolar, schizophrenia, paranoid disorders. So we have certain interventions that we utilize for each diagnosis, typically, right? That are indicative that it will be effective in reducing symptoms or frequency and duration of symptoms. And with this fear or current situation that we're experiencing, we have to be creative because sometimes we have to assess the symptom, right? And a lot of the times we try to ground the individual in reality, factual, tactile, reality-based situations. And with this, when somebody has a fear that is very realistic,
right, it's
all over the media, and it's in your backyard, technically, right? There's no state that has been unscathed with this. It is very hard for us clinicians having individuals in the therapy room and being creative with something like this. And it kind of brings me back during COVID. We had to be very creative in interventions and how do we implement these things. And during this last year, we have to be creative with the intervention. So typically we help the patient or client delegate those thoughts or intrusive thoughts or fears based on reality, right? But how do we do that if that's actually happening, right? So how do we ground someone in reality if the reality is what they're fearful from? So in my practice, I have been creating safety plans, and a safety plan is typically utilized when we're having patients or clients that are endorsing symptoms of suicidal ideation, homicidal ideation, self-harm or aggression. We do safety plans and crisis plans for situations like that. And we started utilizing, at least in my practice, safety plans for these type of situations. So how do we minimize the impact, right? We can't guarantee, and we can't say it's not based on reality.
Yeah, because it is very much real.
It is, unfortunately.
Yeah. So how do you acknowledge that and do it in a way that is informed, in a way that recognizes, the circumstances, that recognizes so many factors, race and the legitimate fear that people have, and do it in a way that's liberating.
Right. So a lot of mental health, right, it's validating the fear, right? And if it's illogical and delusional, you go through a process of helping the patient identify that it's an illogical thought, that we have the wise mind and emotion mind, which is the logic and the emotion. So we kind of dabble in that and figure that out. With something like this, we have to validate the fear and the reality of it, right? And then determine what is going to make this patient or client feel safer or minimize the impact of this fear. A lot of the time when we're having clients having symptoms, the symptom itself handicaps the individual, right? This is happening with these individuals that are afraid of getting picked up by, for example, ICE. They're not going outside. They're missing school, they're missing work, or they're doing the bare minimums, right? Or when they're going out and they're scared. Mm-hmm. So how do we figure out a safety plan for that? So my goal is helping them not stop living, right? Because then we're giving in into the fear, which is, technically and we would do the same thing with any other symptom. And we're basing the fear as a symptom right now because it's kind of starting to handicap the individual, right? Mm-hmm. So how do we educate them on rights, how to prepare if this were to happen, and being creative with the alternatives in new routine or things that they're doing at home. For example, if we talk about different scenarios, okay, let's say you do get picked up. Does your cell phone have your location? Do you drop a pin? Do you have, Life 360? All those little components that if you do go missing, can we track your last location? Can we figure out where you were? A lot of my clients, US citizens and all, are carrying their passports.
Me being one of them.
Myself included.
Yeah.
And I have a 14-year-old that never in my life I would trust her with a passport. Mm-hmm. And guess what? She has her passport.
Yeah. These are all, survival techniques. And it's interesting in what you're saying, and that is that part of your therapy at this point is to talk about survival in this moment.
And it is very different than the everyday treatment that, for the past 16 years I've been doing. But it is reality, which is a little different. Sometimes the reality of someone that's, depressed is sometimes alternating their narrative, right? And seeing in a different perspective. And it's hard to change your perspective on this one, right? When the facts and what's happening, it's there. It's very black and white. So it's a lot of navigating and how to help individuals really survive and live life day by day without really handicapping, because I do believe that if we do give in, that's what they want.
I got to ask, with everything going on, it can be easy to feel helpless and like everything is just out of one's control. How have you seen the people you work with really kind of spurred to action because of current events?
So I do have a lot of young adults, a lot of college students also, which is why my schedule changes every semester, every quarter. But I do want to say that this generation and how passionate people are right now and not being fearful and educating themselves and, posting or doing walkouts or marches is really educating us, and it's also giving us the strength of it's okay for us to do this and go outside and share what we think is right and what we think is wrong. And I think it's because it's a community, right? We're creating a community of its own. And sometimes community comes with power and we don't feel alone. So as alone as you're feeling right now, sometimes if you connect to a community that you connect with, it doesn't have to be about immigration. It doesn't have to be about ICE. Just creating or connecting with a community that you feel close to gives you the sense of I belong, especially right now because a lot of people feel like we don't.
All right. That's some great advice. This was a good conversation. I've been speaking with Lizeth Ma, licensed marriage and family therapist. Lizeth, thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
That's our show for today. I'm your host, Jade Hindman. Thanks for tuning in to Midday Edition. Be sure to have a great day on purpose, everyone.
Stay connected to the world around you. KPBS brings you trusted news, compelling stories, and in-depth reporting every day. Wherever life takes you, KPBS is here, on the radio, online, and on the go. Discover more at kpbs.org.